Chapter 15, Episode 2. The professor was undecided about writing a letter to Sally. He wasn't sure where to send it if he did write one. What did he know about Sally? He knew he loved her, but he didn't know why. He knew enough biology to understand what had happened, but it was impossible to be objective about something you were in. He tried to break it down. He loved how she moved, how she thought, even the sound of her voice and the smells of her body. He loved how she had no regard for convention, yet did not demonstrate against any. Adoration. He adored her. His satisfaction of being alive in the present increased dramatically when she was in the same room, even if she was in the classroom. Sometimes she came and said nothing, but she watched him and observed him in such an honest, delighted way that he almost believed in angels again. He could almost bear missing her, knowing she was somewhere. Evolution had at least one of her. It was the first time he had even allowed himself a relationship with a student. She wasn't as young as the other students, that was part of it, but had she been a student, he had to admit, that would not have been enough to say no to her surprise visit. She was a rare creature. She taught him things. Even when she was saying nothing, she was teaching him things. How to love and adore her. Now she was gone. His neighbor knew the mystery girl was gone. Rachel came by more often to make love to him. The doorbell rang. He heard it. He knew the sound. It wasn't until it rang the third time that he made the connection to the meaning. It wasn't his neighbor. She knocked. Maybe Mormons. He would let them in. It was usually pointless, like watching a bad movie for the 13th time. He buzzed them in without asking who was there, and waited. There was only one of them, he noticed. So Jehovah's Witness and Mormon were out. Didn't look like a salesman. It was a cop. He looked at the badge the fat man held out while he caught his breath. Detective Blusha. The professor waited until he spoke. Finally smiled and asked to come in. Can I make you a coffee? I would love a coffee, thank you. Blusha sat down and used the time to get his breathing back to normal. He wanted to curse cigarettes and smoke one. With a quick look around, he saw he was in a non-smoking environment. Professor John Johnson. I'm good with John. Good. Call me Blusha. Everyone does. Do you take milk? No, a bit of sugar. The professor sat down and looked at the detective sitting at the kitchen table. There were two piles of stories from students. The unread pile was the bigger pile. He would get to them. Do you know why I'm here? Something is amiss and you think I can shine some light on the topic. Blusha laughed. He liked the professor. What do you teach? Some religion, history, creative writing? And Angela Roberts is in your creative writing class? Luckily, a photo appeared in front of the professor to support the statement. He didn't know her as Angela Roberts. For him, she was Sally. Sally without a last name. She had never told him her last name and he had never thought to ask. On her stories, she only put Sally K. Even without a name, he knew her writing. Yes. She isn't registered as a student. No, she is one of the rare breeds that want to learn things just to learn how to do things, or just because they love it. The kind of student sits in to learn something with no interest in getting a stamped document at the end of it. Do you often have such students? Seldom. One a year maybe. Usually a little older. Someone who can't study full time, just wants to know more. Doesn't disturb the class? On the contrary. They are often the ones who add to the life of the class. They bring things to the class. It makes my job easier and more exciting. And having a sexual relationship with a student, not really a student, would be less against policy. Is that what this is all about? No, not at all. None of my business. That's my envy shouting out. I'm a supporter of consensual sex, not my area of expertise. But I am interested in what you can tell me about Angela. She is beautiful. She's clever. Did she talk about modeling? Never. Anything unusual? She is exceptionally fit. Was she a good student? John noticed the question was and not is. Was? When did you last see her? It's been a couple of months. That normal? She isn't normal. Is she in some kind of trouble? She might be. What kind of trouble? We don't know yet. We don't know what her connection is. All we have are leads. She's one of them. Do you know where she is? You don't know where she is? I only ever know where she is when she is here or at the university. I'm sure she lives in the city. She ran home from here. The professor didn't offer Ottawa as a possibility. He wasn't thinking of complicity. Just Sally's anonymity. Something she liked, something she seemed to care about. There was nothing to her letter. Maybe the police would find something in it. Have it analyzed by handwriting experts. All the things they could break down and look at. Did you know where she worked? Consulting company. Said it was uninteresting. We didn't talk much about the other things in our lives. We enjoyed talking about writers and writing. She liked reading and I liked listening to her read. She was self-disciplined, I can tell you that. She worked hard at her fitness and she took her writing seriously. Sounds dedicated, unusual even. Unusual and refreshing. Sharing time with her was like camping outside of this space-time. Oh? You know, Mr. Blusha, never really thought about it before. Paradigms. She doesn't conform to any but her own. She has a scientist's way of approaching the world. Wouldn't that be a little impersonal? She is real, in the moment real, like so few of us ever are. Blusha knew the professor was a clever bastard. He would give him information for the rest of the afternoon. None of it would tell him what he wanted to know. If the professor knew anything, he wasn't going to say. He could see no fault. The bastard was in love with a strange creature. The professor obviously didn't know Angela is a killer. The conversation switched to local news and weather. Blusha finished his coffee and put his card on the table. If he didn't know what to say. If she calls, well, they would be watching that. If you change your mind, thanks for the coffee and your time. The professor walked with Blusha to the door and wished him a good day. Blusha started his descent down to street level. So the bastard is in love with her. Paradigm my ass. No one heard him, for he was pounding down the stairs with a cigarette in his mouth that he would light as soon as he was back on the street. She liked to write stories, as well as fuck professors. An all-rounded killer.